Welcome back to another edition of the Talking National League podcast, episode 29 it is. And it is, of course, on a Monday as we preview all the upcoming Tuesday fixtures. Game week 29, I do believe it is. I'm pleased to be joined by Paul tonight, who's, of course, he's a Wealdstone supporter. Paul, I appreciate you joining me at such short notice. Of course, I was meant to be doing this on my own, but you've sort of saved me, haven't you?
No, not a problem at all, mate. As always, pleasure to join you.
Great. So welcome to everyone that's also tuned in tonight. We've got a fair few that have tuned in quickly just now. Let your thoughts be known in the comments. Give us your predictions. Give us your thoughts on the upcoming games too. I'm here tonight in the Torino top, which of course is an Italian club. Of course there's fixtures coming up. Of course there are games that have obviously been postponed for tomorrow night. The one game at the moment is Bournemouth versus Dorking. There's a potential, and of course there will be more games that will be postponed, very likely. Games such as Eastleigh versus Barnet, it's likely that could be postponed. Halifax versus Scunthorpe could also be postponed. But we are going to be previewing those games and just hoping that those games are on. Because, of course, me and Kobe did the predictions for Saturday's fixtures, and only 2 of the games were on in the end. So, let's head to Sofa Score now, and we can preview all the upcoming games. So, a game that we can potentially start with, as you can see, Notts County is still top of the league. I think a good game to start with. You know what, Paul, would you like to choose a game that we do start with?
Oh, what should we go with? We'll go Maidenhead Southend, shall we?
Maidenhead Southend then. So, of course, Maidenhead currently in 16th, I believe. I'll get the standings up here. Southend still in a comfortable 6th place at the moment. 2 sides that haven't played for a while, and that is going to be quite a regular trend tonight as we preview all the games. A lot of these sides haven't played for a while in the league. That is because of FA Trophy, a lot of postponements recently, but Southend still 6th in the table. Maidenhead down in 18th. I didn't notice that at all. Matches-wise, looking at the recent form between the 2 clubs, looking at Southend from their perspective, like we've said, they haven't played in a while. You go back to the most recent game that they actually did play, and it was back on the 7th of Jan. How do you see this game go ahead?
I think the big thing that will probably play into the Southend's advantage is being a full-time side. You know, although they haven't played, they're going to be able to at least train, get confident, you know. Who are probably part of this hybrid, slightly more than part-time, but aren't full-time. You know, how much contact has Alan Devonshire had with the players? And I suppose for both of them, they're going to have that advantage of having a couple of weeks, like all the teams, really. We'll probably talk about all these teams, but they're going to have a couple of weeks where they can get injuries back. You know, is there anyone still suspended? But I think it will probably suit Southend better being a full-time side rather than Maidenhead. And, you know, the likes of Dorking, Wealdstone, you know, those that are sort of part-time hybrid may find in the first couple of games possibly a little bit more of a struggle. So I would favour Southend. Problem with Southend you got is all the off-the-field troubles.
Yeah.
You know, embargoes and HMRC non-payments and winding up orders and, you know, discord amongst the supporters with the ownership. So Maidenhead are a very settled side, aren't they, in the National League? They are what they are, whereas Southend can be potentially very good, but they're bit hamstrung with the off-the-field issues.
Yeah, they certainly are. And just looking at the form, and I'm going to ask you the question, can you take too much from the form at the moment, considering that both sides haven't played in a while?
Do you know, it's again, who knows? I mean, and we'll say this about every match, you know, a 2-week break, does it help or hinder them? You know, I personally, I don't know too much about each squad in relation to who's been injured and who may be coming back. I don't believe either of them have made any signings in that 2 weeks. So, you know, the squad hasn't changed in that sense. So I think the form probably does go out the window that little bit. They, you know, they'll certainly play on the fact that last time they played, they got whatever result they got and hope to either better that or continue with their form. And again, a lot of the teams will be the same. So, yeah, I think, and also obviously around that first week of January, you had cup matches as well. So there weren't even league fixtures. Cup matches are taken in a different light by many clubs, especially at this top end of the National League. So I think you chuck the form out the window for the next couple of weeks. They all settle themselves down and they go again for a really heavy schedule that's going to sort of come because of this last couple of weeks disruptions.
The question is, of course, Southend going to somewhere like Maidenhead, will it suit their playing style? Going to somewhere like Maidenhead where it's a tight pitch. We've seen the so-called big side in the division and the nice footballing side, such as Oldham as well, struggle when they go to places like Maidenhead away from home because the pitch is so tight. It's a little bobbly. It's a traditional non-league pitch and stadium. So do you think that could affect Southend United?
Massively. You look at Maidenhead, and the one thing they consistently seem to do is take the big teams as scalps, don't they? They, they'll pick results up home and away against some really fancy teams. And having been to Maidenhead over the Christmas period, watching Wealdstone, as you say, pitches on a slope, very old, traditional, non-league. It's a ground rather than a stadium, and that's no disrespect to them. I think they will play to their strengths. A very direct, robust side. Alan Devonshire is well versed in what National League football is what's required in National League football. I think it will certainly be a test for Southend, but I think they'll come out on top.
From my perspective, I'm going to go for a draw. I just want to have a quick look at Southend's away record this season. They have the 9th best away record in the division at the moment. Two sides that I think you can't really put too much into perspective about this match, about form, like you've mentioned. It's hard to say because we haven't played in such a long time for both of these sides. From my perspective, though, Tuesday night, long way to go. Maidenhead are well aware, like you've mentioned, for picking up points against the stronger sides in the division. So from my perspective, I'm going to go for a draw in this match. I think a low-scoring 1-1 draw. The next game then, let's head to your side then. Yeovil Town versus Wealdstone. Now, this is an interesting game, and it's a great opportunity, from my perspective, for Wealdstone to break into the playoffs. You're playing against a Yeovil side that, of course, underperforming this season, down in 19th place in the league. Wealdstone away from home, so Yeovil may have the advantage on that. But if you pay your attention to the away form, Wealdstone are quite strong away from home, the 6th best away record in the division this season. How much of an opportunity is this for Wealdstone to break into the playoffs? Because, of course, sides above them, it's likely that they're going to pick up points too. But what Wealdstone need to be doing, they're in a healthy position at the moment in 9th. They just need to keep winning. And this is a game, from my perspective, what they need to win away from home at a place like Yeovil, who are struggling at the moment. I think we've had the issue once again where he may have froze. We may have this throughout. Paula, you're back at the moment.
Am I back?
Yeah, there we go. We're back. I don't know if you heard what I was saying there, but yeah.
Yeah, no. Since Mark Cooper's gone in, I don't think they've hardly lost a game. They just don't. They can't. Yeovil can't score goals. That's the big challenge for them. I certainly see this as it will be a low scoring game. We're not massively great at scoring lots of goals. I know last time out we beat EC 3-1 at home down at the Vale. I see Wealdstone winning purely because I think they're a more settled side maybe than Yeovil are. I know Mark Cooper's done very well at sort of shoring up that defence and making them very, very difficult to beat. You watch some of his pressers and he just basically says if we don't let a goal in, then we've kind of, at least we're going to get a draw, and they're scrapping for survival down there. So I don't know what their pitch is like. It's obviously not a bad stadium. I understood they probably should have played on Saturday, so it may be playable tomorrow night. We'll just see how the weather is over the night tonight. But I see Wealdstone going there and winning. We've just got the lad in from Torquay to play up top. We've got Akinola coming back. We've got Fella playing up top. So, on paper with Kretschmar, we've got 3 or 4 decent looking forwards and a good pack of a forward line. So as long as our side is settled, I think we're going to win. And I don't know of any injuries or suspensions that are going to hinder us going into tomorrow night. We haven't had play for 2 weeks. 7th of Jan was the last time we played. So is that an advantage to us? Stuart Maynard's got a completely part-time side. So contact with the players is going to have been tough, especially if you can't get any training facilities, if matches aren't on. So again, I'd like to think we're going to go to Hughes Park and beat them. I think it will be a very, very tough game. I don't think it will be very exciting, and I think it will be a low-scoring win for Wealdstone.
I'm going to agree with you on that. I think I'd go for a 1-0 Wealdstone win. The odds are quite tight on this game. I think a lot of people will be putting this down for a draw. From my perspective, I think this is a great opportunity for Wealdstone if they can get all 3 points, and I think they will. I think it's difficult at the moment with Wealdstone being part-time, but what you've got to remember is they've still been training at the moment. They still would have had a few training sessions, and I think away at somewhere like Yeovil, they know it's not going to be easy. They know in this division never to underestimate a side like Yeovil, and of course Yeovil will be going into this game hoping to pick something out of the game because of where they are. But you look at Wealdstone, I wouldn't say there's more pressure on them, but I'd say it's a great opportunity. And I think at Yeovil, 19th in the table, I honestly don't think they're going to go down this season. I think they've got enough to stay up. You look at the form recently, it's been quite strong from Yeovil despite that recent defeat. I think Wealdstone will be able to pick up the result, and I think it'll be a low-scoring game.
Yeah,
and like you've mentioned, I don't think it'll be one of the prettier games that you'll see. It's not a game that if Halifax aren't playing on the Tuesday, but it's not a game that I will be honestly tuning into. But I think it's a good opportunity for Wealdstone to pick something out of this game. Just a reminder to everyone that has tuned in tonight, please feel free to get involved in the live chat, give your predictions for the upcoming games. If you are watching this as a video afterwards, also let us know your thoughts on the podcasts and give a few predictions in the comments below. Next game then, I'll let you choose again for the next game. What game would you like to head to next?
Woking Torquay. Woking are an interesting. Well, they're both an interesting one, aren't they? Sort of.
Yeah. Two sides that are highly separated, at the moment. Working in fourth, Torquay United, down in, I believe, I'm correct, 22nd place. A massive difference between the two sides. But I would honestly say it's a potential banana skin for Woking being at home to a Torquay side that are fighting for their lives down there.
Oh, without shadow of doubt. I know just before the enforced break, Torquay picked up a positive result. They're still in the FA Cup or FA Trophy, so there's been a bit more positivity down there. They brought in the striker in from Sutton, Fadahunzi, is it? So Tope Fadahunzi, who's played in League Two this season. So another centre half that they signed. So from Maidstone. So Gary Johnson's trying his best to sort of. But I think, as you say, could be a real banana skin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. I look at Torquay, and although they have underperformed this season, I think you wouldn't put that down totally to the players that they've underperformed. I think it's difficult. I don't think the recruitment was there. I honestly don't think the squad's good enough to survive this season, but they're fighting for their lives, and you can't fault Torquay's effort. They'll go into this game, in my opinion, guns blazing, with lack of pressure, I'd say, going to somewhere like Woking. You've got a Woking side that are overachieving this season. On the other hand, you've got a Torquay side that are significantly underachieving this season. And I think there's going to be a point where Torquay will pick up points. And recently, although they haven't played in a while, you have to go back to the 7th of Jan since they last played a league game. And they got that win against Halifax at home, followed up by an FA Trophy win, which is a competition that you can tell by how Torquay performed and the lineup they put out. They are taken seriously. I think the only disappointing factor maybe from Torquay is that momentum was blocked with the postponement against Bromley, the postponement against Bournemouth, and they haven't played in a while. And that's the only thing I would say from Torquay's perspective. I will go on the fact, though, in my prediction, and that overall, I am going to go for a Woking win.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's going to be another. I think you can't. You look at the difference between the two sides. I think the quality will show later on in the game, I may add. I'm going to go for a low-scoring 1-0 Woking win. I don't think it'll be another pretty game. I think it'll be a tough game. Torquay, I think, will probably take a fair few because it's one of their, and I don't think you can ever say it's a more local game for Torquay, but it's one of their more local-ish games, I would say, for Torquay United. But yeah, what would your prediction be for this game?
I think you're quite right. Woking are on an absolute blinding run of form, aren't they? You know, they're the team that I think are probably the dark horse for pushing in not only into the playoffs, but getting top end of playoff positions. They took Reece Brown from Wealdstone, and he's been a revelation. He's got himself back fit. I think he had missed a couple of games early on from after he left us, and he's scoring on a regular basis. And Darren Sarle's a very, very good manager, and having gone full time this year, it's starting to show. The benefits are starting to show with the squad that they've got, his recruitment, and actually just the confidence they have. I think they're going to. It could be a banana skin. I can't see it. I think Woking are going to be far too strong, especially at home. They're pretty good at home, Woking, aren't they? So, yeah, with a big crowd behind them, I can't see anything but a Woking win.
Strong favourites for Woking to win, as expected. But I think the fact that they've got a lot of goal scorers working, they've got Reece Brown, who obviously they purchased from yourselves, which was a big statement. Gregor Cox, one of the standout players in the league this season. Patrick Ormond, yes, not been as prolific as I wouldn't say as people have expected. I think he's had a more key role from the backroom staff, and I think a role that's not been about him particularly scoring goals. And of course, he has been a striker, but I think he's benefiting the whole team and the whole dressing room at the moment. And I think it's a big statement from Woking when they go to places like Dagenham, they win away from home. I predicted a draw for that game. They took 6 points off Aldershot, which is, yes, expected, but it's a derby. And like we've always said, anything can happen in a derby. And then going somewhere like Scunthorpe, under those circumstances, it could have been easy for them to switch off after what had happened. And they just got the job done. And that's something that Woking are doing. They're getting the job done at places like Scunthorpe, Dagenham, getting 6 points off Aldershot. And for me, I don't think it'll be an easy game from any stretch, but I think Woking have managed to sneak it and get the win, in my opinion. Next game then that we will look at, I do believe one of honour, it is showing the game. Maidstone United versus Aldershot. Bit of a different in contrast at the moment. Maidstone were one of the only sides that, of course, did play on Saturday against Wrexham at home. I think it showed a lot of character to be 2-0 down against Wrexham and then to come back. I don't think you could ever say that you've blown it against Wrexham, because Wrexham do have that never say die attitude, and I think everyone always felt, even when they got back into the game, Wrexham will end up winning it, because they often do. But you're playing against an Aldershot side that, in my opinion, are really starting to show the true quality now. They're another side that, of course, did play. Got a 2-2 draw at Bromley. Bromley, a difficult place to go. Managed to get a point there. Previous to that, beating Solihull Moors away from home. Aldershot are starting to score a lot of goals. The key players are starting to show, and I think we're starting to see the true reflection of their squad. They will head into this game, and of course the upcoming fixtures too, because of course there's Oldham coming up, which is a winnable game from their perspective too. Wanting to win this, to looking at the standings, just to narrowly escape from that any talk about them being in that relegation battle, because I don't think they are at the moment. But if you are wanting to climb out of that conversation and have that feeling on your mind that you could potentially fall into that and break into the relegation zone, this is a game that you need to be winning. And I think Maidstone, being at Maidstone, will of course be wanting to win this, because they will see this as a winnable game going to 16th place Aldershot. How would you say this game fares?
Well, potentially it could be called as a 6-pointer, right? Look at Aldershot, 30 points. They've done well. They've clawed themselves away from that bottom four, where it's a lot of the time, this early part of the season, they were down there. They were looking like they were going to get sucked in. Probably some people's favourites to get relegated. Obviously, they changed Mark Molesey and brought in their new management team, and they seem to have really settled down. I think you're right. They're coming out of that and going into mid-table. But if they've only got to lose a couple and they're back down there. But if they win a couple, then they're on that edge of the playoffs. So it's a 6-pointer as much as Maidstone need to win, because they're only 1 point away from, or a win away from being out of the bottom four. Maidstone have got to take a lot of heart, haven't they, from their performance against Wrexham, to lose in the last minute at home to a typically Hayden goal. I should imagine it probably came from a long throw or a set piece.
Yeah.
You can't expect to be taking points off of Wrexham when you're in that bottom 4 or 5, but you can take a lot of heart from the performance. Obviously, they've got a new manager or an interim manager in. They've signed a couple of lads, and they've signed a centre half today, haven't they? So Maidstone are going to really want to win. It's at home again. It's likely to be played whatever the weather because they've got 4G. So they can then at least get another game under their belt. The problem Maidstone have got is if they don't pick up results, if you look at they've played 28 games, they've played the most in that bottom half of the table, and tomorrow will be 29. They're going to run out of games before others are, so they've got to pick up points and get them on the board rather than sort of see that they're going to sort of games will creep away and they haven't gained any points. So a massive one for Maidstone. Where do I see that? Potentially a draw. If anything, I'd probably go a Maidstone win just off the back of how they did against Wrexham and probably playing with a little bit of confidence. But who knows? A difficult one to call, really.
Something that I take from Maidstone's perspective, although it's a disappointing result against Wrexham at home, considering that you managed to come back in that game, and there was talk, and a lot of people online were saying Maidstone are going to go on to win this game because the momentum was with them and they were creating chances. But something I will say from Maidstone's perspective, they're starting to score goals. And of course, Jack Barman, another player that hasn't particularly been prolific this season, got the 2 goals against Wrexham. If they can take that into their next 3 games and consistently score goals, and of course, maybe not leak as many goals because that's something that we've talked about all season. They leak a lot of goals. Maidstone can break out this relegation zone because it's so tight. You've got Aldershot at home. You'd see that as winnable. If you can get 3 points there, you've got Torquay United at home, who are another side that's struggling this season, followed up by Yeovil away. If Maidstone can get a slight run together going forward, they can easily climb out this relegation zone because I think that's something that we all forget. The games that Maidstone have had to play recently may be a little unfair considering that you've seen other sides around them have had quite an easy run of it recently. So if Maidstone can pick some crucial points up against these sides that are around them at the moment, they can easily get away out of this relegation zone. Do I think they'll do that and have the quality to? No, I think the quality will really show in a negative way, I may add, in these next 3 games. I think I honestly feel Aldershot will turn up, and I think they're looking a good side now, Aldershot. I think they'll turn up. I think they'll get the 3 points. I'm a loser. Innie Effing Young, Ryan Glover, Tyler Cordner at the back. I think Aldershot will have too much for them, to be honest. And I think I would agree Aldershot in a slight false position at the moment. I think they've got the quality to turn up at somewhere like Maidstone and get the 3 points. And that's something that I am going to go for. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Aldershot win. What would your prediction be?
Like I said, I'm going draw.
Is that a high-scoring draw? A disconnection again. Oh, no, we're back. Hello? We are back. We're back. I'll just take the opportunity to read the chat. So, Owen, who is a Wrexham supporter, has come in and said, "Hi, Luke. Hope Wrexham win 2-0 against Gateshead. We'll move on to that game very soon." Someone who's a Maidstone fan here. Aldershot a massive game tomorrow. I reckon if we get a win, there's a chance we can stay up. Yeah, and like I've mentioned, you look at those games coming up. If you can get the 3 points against those, it will give you a massive boost heading into those double-heading away fixtures.
Well, the thing is, Luke, you look at Maidstone. They win tomorrow, they get 24 points. Gateshead are playing Oldham. Are they likely to get anything out of that? Possibly not. I know we'll discuss that in a moment. So all of a sudden they're not then drifting, Scunthorpe are drifting, right? Whereas Maidstone are still holding on. So like I said, if they win tomorrow, Gateshead probably don't win. Torquay don't win, all of a sudden it's bunched again. And with that sort of run of games coming out of the winnable, then I think Ben's right. They've got, I don't think they'll stay up, but I think they've got a good fight in them to try.
Do you think this table's going to come to place towards the bottom in the upcoming weeks? Because like you've mentioned, a lot of the sides down in the dumps down there are playing against each other. So do you think after the next 5 weeks or so, it will we'll really see who will be surviving and who won't be surviving this season.
Well, it's going to be a massive test for all the clubs, isn't it? Because having had 2 weeks off and the FA Trophy and FA Cup matches, there's going to be a lot of Saturday, Tuesday, and whether you're full time or not, that's a real heavy burden on the resources that you have, the travelling that's involved, all that type of thing. So I think when we restart tomorrow night, hopefully most of them will, or definitely restart at the weekend when the weather warms up. Having that sort of 5 or 6 weeks potentially of a lot of games on a Saturday, Tuesday basis, that will then start to shape the league. And that's why when you look at the likes of Maidstone down there trying to get points off. And, as Wealdstone fans, we used to sort of, we're in that lucky position where we are at the moment to be sort of out of that. But we sort of look at that bottom as being a bit of a mini league within the league and trying to win points off of each other there and then get points off of the big guys at the top end, which helps supplement. But if you can not lose and beat the teams in and around you, then you've got a chance of surviving. Yeah,
it's crucial. And I think for me, the sides who have the greatest squad depth will be the ones who will thrive in the upcoming weeks. Sides like Oldham, I think, will get out of it. And the other side I do want to talk about quickly. We will come back to the chat very soon. I'll just read this one out. Wrexham need to push on tomorrow. Away win, a bonus. Yes, they do need to get the 3 points from Wrexham's perspective. But again, I do want to look at, and I previously just mentioned it, Oldham versus York. Now, I honestly have a bit of sympathy for Oldham. A 2-2 draw against Notts County, one of the standout performances I'd probably say of the season so far. And then you go on to win 5-1 away from home. The last time Oldham scored 5 goals away from home has to be over a long time ago, because although it is dark and they leak a lot of goals, it shows that they have got the quality going forward to score goals, Oldham. And you get that momentum. You get a point against Notts County at home. You destroy a Dorking side away from home. Then you have the FA Trophy, which is something that I think Oldham fans will agree with me here, don't particularly take too seriously. Their aim is to survive this season and stabilise from now until the end of the season. And then they get disrupted with an FA Trophy game, which sort of crushes their momentum. They then don't play for a while, and then you're back at home against a York side that are just bringing up the odds here, are quite good away from home. York have got a better away record this season than they have at home. So that tells you all you need to know about this game. And I do have a bit of sympathy for Oldham, because they were starting to gain a bit of momentum. They were starting to get on a run, and all it takes is for now them not playing in a while is for them to drop points here, and the fans will turn on the players' backs again.
Yeah, I mean, they got 2 massive things going for them. They've got a few games in hand over other teams at the bottom, and they've got a huge resource pool, haven't they? Resource levels. No matter how badly they may have performed this season. And I know Oldham fans aren't overly happy with David Unsworth, but they just signed who's the lad they just signed recently? His name's going out of my head, sort of on a 2-year contract. They got
Reed. I'm trying to think. Was it Reed who came from Solihull? Matt Shelton. So
you've got Shelton's come in. He's got National League winning experience. They got the young lad up top from Scunthorpe, who was a real handful. I just think they've got too much Oldham to go down. They got those games in hand. It's not York they're good away from home. They've been a bit up and down. Obviously, they've had their problems on and off the field. I can't see York getting anything out of the game. I think Oldham will win, being at home, Boundary Park, Tuesday night, couple of signings. I think they'll do okay. I think they'll win.
Yeah, I think the odds are going in favour for Oldham, and I can see why. I'm going to agree with you on that. I think there's a lot of games in this game week that are going to be tight. Like I said, low scoring again, I feel. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Oldham win once again, in my opinion. I think York, they seem to be shaping up now as a mediocre side. I honestly don't think they've got enough to be threatening for any further up the table than what they are at the moment. I don't think they've got enough going forward, in my opinion. Oldham, on the other hand, I think need to gain a bit of momentum, although it has been disrupted recently. Is that going to affect them in this game? That is the big question. From my perspective, I think Oldham will come out on top, and I think they're going to get the win, and I'm going to go for a 1-0 Oldham win. I think they've got enough going forward in Nuttall, Reid, the additions, including Shelton, players at the back such as Kitchen, to survive this season, and of course in this match, to get all 3 points, in my opinion. The next game we've got Bromley versus Dagenham, two sides in the playoffs, I do believe, at the moment. Two sides that will be wanting to secure a place at the moment. No, Dagenham are, of course, just outside the playoff places. I do apologise for that. Bromley in 7th place. What would your take be on this?
I mean, another two clubs that are banging form from what I sort of read earlier today. Sort of lost 1 in 8. Either both teams have only lost 1 in 8 in the National League, aside from their cup exploits. I know sort of one still in the FA Trophy, one still in the FA Cup. Their teams are both on a good run of form. Very, very physical, very direct. Bromley got to take a lot out of their performance against Wrexham that was live on telly. Felt they were very harshly dealt with the penalty that was given against them. And if that wasn't, they may have got something out of the race down at the racehorse ground. But Bromley are what they are. Big, physical, strong, direct, got Cheek up top who scores plenty of goals. I think Dagenham are very similar. As I said before, I really like Robinson in midfield, who sort of dictates play. Two really good footballing teams, but probably slightly different the ways they play. I'd see this as a tough draw. I don't think I can divide them really. Bromley don't give up. They were 3-0 down against 3 times down against us. Having seen them against Wealdstone, never gave up, got a draw. The way they played against Wrexham, never gave up, didn't get anything out of it. But so I can't see anything but a draw in this game.
You know what? I'm going to go for a Dagenham win, which I think's a bit of a surprise, and I can see why you've put a draw. You look at both sides. There's slightly much you can really split them by.
No, not at all.
Bromley have a good home record this season. Both have prolific goal scorers, more than one. You look at Bromley, they've got Adam Marriott and Michael Cheek. Yes, Michael Cheek hasn't been as prolific as people expected and what he has done recently in previous seasons, but he's still a prolific goal scorer, and he scored twice at the weekend, I do believe, too. Dagenham, on the other hand, Josh Walker, Paul McCallum, another player that hasn't lived up to expectations this season, Paul McCallum, but he's still a prolific goal scorer. Balanto, another player. Junior Moraes, easily being one of the best players in the National League this season. And I know it's hard to split the sides when you compare them both, but Dagenham being away from home at the moment, needing that win. I'm going to go for a Dagenham win. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Dagenham win. They often do show Dagenham at places like Bromley that they end up getting the result when they're least expected to. It always seems to be Dagenham where they slip up against the weaker sides in the division. And from my perspective, I feel this is a stronger game for them. And I think in hindsight, the way the game will play out, I think it'll suit them better. And I think Dagenham will get all 3 points away from home. The next one that we will look at, I don't think we have actually looked at Eastleigh versus Barnet. This is an interesting one because Eastleigh have the 4th best home record in the division this season. And I think I've said that for the past 4 weeks. Barnet are on the better form at the moment. What would your take be on this game?
Well, it pains me to say it, but I can't see any but Barnet winning. I mean, the only thing Eastleigh have is they're very good at home. They're absolutely terrible away. I can only comment on what I saw down at the Vale when Eastleigh came on the 7th of January. So obviously 2 or 3 weeks ago, Wealdstone comfortably beat them 3-1. And you can see why they've only won 1 game away from home. They didn't seem to play to any game plan. There wasn't any, Eastleigh fans may tell you different having watched them at home, but there was just nothing nothing about them. And I was personally surprised to know where they were and to see where they were in the table, having seen how they played. They're at home, right? So it's not. It's an all right place to go. Yeah, it's not the most exciting place to go as a fan. It's not the most exciting place to go as a team. But Eastleigh will use that to their advantage. But Barnet are really strong, really consistent at the moment. Dean Brennan's got them playing. He's got a really good starting 11, good sort of bench. I think Barnet will win.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that. I think Eastleigh will win the game. I think Eastleigh being at home, and I know that's the one thing that you've said are in favour for Eastleigh.
Yeah.
I think them being at home against Barnet are going to get stopped at some point. They are a really good side at home this season. They compete with some of the best sides in the division, and it's safe to say if it was just based off home record, Eastleigh would be in the playoffs. You know, they've got the fourth best home record in the division. Players such as Danny Whitehall, another great player. Barnet are going to get stopped at some point. They've always been known to slip up at some point, and I'm sure they will do. The reverse fixture, of course, Barnet came on top. In this fixture, I'm going to go for Eastleigh to come on top. I'm going to go for a 3-2. I think it'll be a bit of a cracker. The reverse fixture to what obviously happened last time, but instead Eastleigh come out on top instead of Barnet. So yeah, that's my prediction. We'll quickly have a look at the live chat, see what people have been saying, and then we will come back to it. So had a few people that have come in recently. There's one here who is, I believe, 13 games in 7 weeks for the Spyrites. Massively important period coming up. That'll be the game that we will preview next. Gateshead supporter, hello, mate. Don't worry, I'm expecting you to predict a loss, mate. I really would take a draw against Wrexham. Take care, mate. Cheers for that. Away the lads, I think it's the saying they say up there. Ethan, who is a Scunthorpe fan, featured in the documentary too, I believe. Cheers for doing that. It was great to speak to you too. What was your Halifax Iron prediction? I missed it. We're coming on to that game very, very soon. Keza, who is an Oldham supporter, welcome to the stream, Keza. Maidstone supporter, you've missed it if you weren't there already. Maidstone's takeover has fallen through, going to be a major blow for us. Yeah, there were a lot of, I saw that online. There were a lot of rumours about Maidstone being taken over, and that's fallen through. I don't think the takeover would have made too much of a difference at this point in the season now if it went through, if Maidstone would survive or not. Stay blessed, who is a Chesterfield supporter. Chesterfield will beat Alty. Andrew, Bromley should have had a player straight red. Yeah, they're often known as a dirty side, Bromley. And then Kez come back in and said, have you predicted the Oldham game yet? Yes, we have. I don't know if you want me to spoil it for you, but I am going to anyway. We've both predicted an Oldham win in that game, so you may be pleased to know you may not be. The next game that we will look at then, if I can get my Sofa score to actually work, if I can find it, is, here we are. We'll look at, like I said, Chesterfield versus Altrincham. Chesterfield haven't played since the 1st of Jan, so you can't really base it off their form. They haven't played since the Scunthorpe game, and that feels a very long time ago. Altrincham are easily one of the most on-form sides in the division. What would your take be on this?
What a difficult one to choose, because Chesterfield clearly need to win to stay in the hunt. Having not played for 3 weeks, that's going to be really tough. You know, as much as we talked about contact time, training, getting injuries back, you know, it doesn't replicate games. So full-time mod plays some of the more attractive football in the league. It would be a blow to lose Coldclough, but you know, with Con Clark in there, who's scored in the last couple of games. Do you know what? That's going to be really. Chesterfield going to come out. You'd like to think they're going to come out of the blocks wanting to win. You know, wanting to show that they want to play a football match after 3 weeks of training. So, I would probably go with Chesterfield purely because of the resource levels they've got, the fact they haven't played, but Altrincham will give them a good game.
Yeah, I totally agree with that on saying Altrincham will give them a good game. You know, Altrincham, they're fresh. They've gone into that full-time module now. Although they've lost Coldclough to, of course, Chesterfield. That's another thing to put into perspective too. They're a very good side, Altrincham. They're one of the most informed sides in the division. And I think from their perspective, this week, next couple of games for Altrincham, Chesterfield, followed by Bournemouth, I believe. Bromley, I think, is coming up too. I may be wrong in that. I'll have to check that. They've got a tough set of fixtures, Altrincham, now, and this will really decide and make or break Altrincham season, in my opinion. I think going to somewhere like Chesterfield, it's another scenario where if they can get a result here, they'll carry a lot of momentum heading into the next couple of fixtures against another tough couple of sides. And if Altrincham are wanting to get into the playoffs this season, I would say they have to get something out of this game, considering Chesterfield players may not be, haven't played in a while. They will, of course, won't be leggy, which you can also put into perspective that Chesterfield will have that on their side. But I honestly feel Altrincham, they'll come at them guns blazing probably for the first half. Chesterfield will probably dominate the game after that. But I think it'll be a lot tighter than what people will think. A lot of people may going into this game thinking, Chesterfield being at home against Altrincham, I'd expect Chesterfield to win. But Altrincham on the other side never have that never say die attitude. Last time they played each other at the Technique, it was a 2-2 draw, and Chesterfield were top of the league, I believe, at the time. And Altrincham were 2-0 down, came back to draw 2-2. Another scenario, Altrincham recently, playing against Halifax, 1-0 down. They came back and won the game 2-1. They're another side that have that never say die attitude. And I think this is a game where they'll always be in the game. It'll be very tight. And I honestly don't think I can split the two sides. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Both sides have quality. Jeff King, Con Clark, another player for Altrincham. Both sides have goal scorers such as Dinanga as well for Altrincham, a player that I've been watching recently. And I think it's a good player for them that can really show his quality in this second half of the season now. Yeah, I think it's hard to split the two sides, in my opinion. So I'm going to go for a draw. Now, the next game that we will look at, are we on to the final game? Oh, no, we've got two more games to preview. We've got Wrexham versus Gateshead and Halifax versus Scunthorpe. Which game would you like to preview first?
Let's go with Wrexham and then we'll finish on your team, Halifax, shall we, Luke?
So let's...
Yeah.
I'll just quickly find that now. There we go. It is the featured match. I think Wrexham are most of the time the featured match according to SofaScore. If it does, of course, load. Yes, it has loaded. Gateshead being at home. Do you think it's a bit of a scare for Wrexham? Of course, Maidstone coming back to draw 2-2 and then Wrexham obviously managing to win that game. Do you see that as a bit of a scare where potentially Wrexham put the foot off the gas and they underestimate the opposition because it's a similar sort of game against a side that's down in the dumps at the moment, down near the bottom of the table? Is it a similar sort of scenario for you?
Oh, yeah, without doubt. I mean, Wrexham are there to be shot at, right? Every team in the National League are going to play against Wrexham and probably, I know it sounds daft, want to beat Wrexham. So yeah, their energy levels, their desire to win are going to be that little bit more, the Hollywood connection and the fact that they're wanting to stream in and whatever it may be. Wrexham are there to be shot at in the nicest possible way. So, the likes of Bromley, who went up there a couple of weeks ago and give them a good game. Maidstone gave them a good game. Wealdstone 0-0 at the Vale. We gave them a good game. They have to find a way to adapt to every football match they play, expecting the team they're playing not to be their cut farm, but to raise that performance level that they may not put against another team.
Yeah, you often see that Wrexham, when they play against sides, the opposition never have a bad game often. I think the one time you may say that was when they defeated Dorking away from home. You may say Dorking had a bad game during that performance, but it's very unlikely that when Wrexham do play an opposition, the only way they'll beat them is simply by outclassing them. And I think this is a similar sort of scenario. If Wrexham don't turn up, and even if they do take the lead and they take the foot off the gas, Gateshead, I think, will punish them. They've got a striker now, Gateshead. They've got Danny Elliott. They're a decent football inside. I've said that throughout the season. They've just been pawing both boxes. Well, now they've got a decent striker, but I say pawing both boxes. They're still quite poor defensively. And I think with Wrexham being so strong from an aerial threat away from home, Mullin, Palmer, Dolby even, who's had a few appearances lately, I'm still expecting Wrexham to... Hayden, another player, Tozer with the long throw. I'm still expecting Wrexham to win this game and come out on top. Although I don't think, and I think I've said this for most games, I don't think it'll be an easy game for Wrexham whatsoever. You look at the tables, you'd probably look at him thinking, Wrexham being second in the league, they can, of course, with Notts County not playing, I believe, they can, of course, wait a second, are Notts County playing either? They are. I don't believe they are. I hope they're not, otherwise we have missed them out. But
are they playing Wednesday?
No, they're not playing Wednesday either. No, so no, I don't believe Notts County are playing. But Wrexham do, of course, have the opportunity to go top of the league if they win this game. But you look at Wrexham second, and you look at Gateshead, you'd honestly think it'd be such an easy match for Wrexham, a comfortable match. You only have to look at that Wrexham versus Maidstone game to show it will not play out like that. I am going to go for a Wrexham win. I think they've got too much threat in the air. Yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-0 Wrexham win, in my opinion, which brings us on to the final game, which is, of course, my mighty Sherman, who are at home to Scunthorpe United. It is, of course, the televised game in the National League. Just as we're on the topic of Scunthorpe United, I did recently do a video based off them on Scunthorpe United, a documentary on them, if you like to call it that, more of a video. I interviewed a few of their supporters, journalists from the club, to get a bit more of an insight on the current situation. And a shout out to Ryan Brook as well. It is his birthday today. Thank you for doing that thumbnail for me, because that was smashing. And also happy birthday to you too. But yeah, the final game that we will look at is, of course, Halifax versus Scunthorpe, which is on the television. Halifax are strong favourites in this game. I did already check. Looking down here, just for people who are wanting to watch, Halifax, 60% chance of winning, 32% chance of winning, with obviously Surfer Scores odds. The televised game, I honestly think this will be a good match. I think Scunthorpe losing Lavery, they've lost Apter, they've lost Nuttall, they've lost all the best players, which is really demoralising considering they were already bottom of the league. You go to someone like Halifax, who are often known for having a bad performance. They can compete with the stronger sides in the division, but they're similar to Dagenham. They are often known to slip up against a side that you wouldn't expect. And because on paper, you'd be expecting Halifax to win this game. And I don't want to predict Scunthorpe to win away from home, because they haven't won away from home for almost 2 years. And I did say Scunthorpe would win against Solihull, but with it being my team, can I really say they will beat Halifax? No. Probably if I wasn't a Halifax fan, I'd put it down to a draw, to be brutally honest. But yeah, what would your take be on it?
Luke, you're too kind. I feel for the Scunthorpe supporters. You know, you read this week that a local businessman, had a failed takeover bid and had to pull out. You know, obviously they've lost Caelan Lavery on his short-term deal. Nuttall, did I read that they weren't even able to sign a goalkeeper and may end up having to put one of the youth team lads in. It just seems to sort of, they lurch from one crisis to another, don't they? And they've got an interim manager who, probably isn't that keen to be in there. There's a real sort of disconnect between fans and club. Listen, they'll give Halifax a go. Scunthorpe have got young players, hungry in as much as they're playing at that level and want to play at that level and trying to prove themselves for moves elsewhere. I can't see anything but Halifax win. You've got to back the home team. With the only game that they've won away from home in the last 2 years is it sort of county cup match. Halifax are going to be too strong. They like I said in the previous cast, they really did well to sit tight with the man. They've stuck with him, and it's coming. And they're gonna win, and they'll probably win fairly comfortably, I would suggest.
I don't think it'll be comfortable. I will go for Halifax win. I think it's probably just my gut feeling, just thinking it'll be typical Halifax to drop points. But I think it'll be a 1-0 Halifax win, in my opinion. I think we'll be the stronger team for a while. I think we'll be knocking on the door for a while, and I think we'll find a way through.
I think you will.
Just getting that goal. I think the longer the game goes on, the more chance you feel that Scunthorpe could snatch it, because what they'll do is everything's against Scunthorpe United. Yeah. Halifax have one of the best home records in the division if you're basing it off recent weeks. Scunthorpe United have the worst away record in the division and probably one of the worst away records in the whole English game at the moment. Scunthorpe have lost the 3 best players. Halifax have still got those players like Spence with them. Everyone's expecting Halifax to win. Strong favourites. Scunthorpe will basically just put 11 men behind the ball, and it's about Halifax breaking them down. And as soon as Halifax do break them down, it could be a cricket score. It's just breaking them down.
You're right. It was,
it is brutally just that, to be honest. So I think Halifax will come out on top, in my opinion. And I think it is an interesting game on BT Sport. Not too far between the two sides, and fair play to every single Scunthorpe fan that does turn up, because it must be a hard watch at the moment. In the most positive way I can put it, to be honest. But yeah, I think that more or less rounds up all the fixtures. Cheers to everyone that's tuned in. We'll quickly read the chat before we do go. What was that? Scunthorpe's last away win from home was against us in League Two. Yeah, I do remember them saying that. Someone else has come in. Welcome to the stream. Maidenhead looked. Maidstone looked strong. Except them to bounce back up the standings. Strong showing v Wrexham. Yeah, they did. But like I've said, I think the whole league has shown times where they can be strong and shouldn't be in that relegation zone. Even Scunthorpe United to a certain point, with some of the odd result that they've pulled out this season. But I think it's so hard to call at the moment who's going to go down. For all we know, Aldershot could still go down. They probably won't. But yeah, that more or less rounds up tonight's edition of the podcast. At such short notice, it's great to see a lot of people tuning in. And Paul, once again, thank you for joining me and giving a brilliant insight into the National League. We did have a message that came on one of the comments in recent weeks saying that you should have Paul on once again, because he talks a lot of facts about the league. So yeah, there's a bit of positive feedback for you there, Paul.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate you having me on. I enjoy talking about National League. You know, I get to most home and away games watching Wealdstone, so I get to see the teams. And you know, as you know, Luke, we're sort of in a little sort of Twitter group, and we did the National League draft. So my knowledge of the National League is expanding, and feeding off of you guys has certainly helped. So I enjoy talking about it. I'm enthusiastic about it. So I'm happy to be on whenever.
Cheers, Paul. It's great to see that you will most likely be with us next season. So if Wealdstone and Halifax are in the same division, we can have you on once again. But yeah, cheers to everyone that's also tuned in. And we will see you probably on Thursday night. Bye for now. If it does end.